Hello, everybody, and welcome to BadgerBeat.com and the Honda Center in Anaheim, where the Badgers are going to the big dance, the Final Four next week in North Texas. And Jim Polzin, I don't know if I can believe what we saw out here tonight, but the Badgers outlast a great Arizona team in overtime and go to the Final Four. I guess if we can start any place, we should start where we've been starting the whole last couple weeks. Frank Kaminsky, what a performance.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I mean, the guy has just continued to increase his play. He keeps getting better and better, and he really carried them. There were times where they really needed him tonight, and he put him on his back and carried him. And it was an exhausting game to watch. It's just every possession mattered, and it was a lot of tension-filled moments. And when it's over, you just kind of take a deep breath, and like you said, you can't believe it happened.
Oatsy, before we get into the details of this ball game, you've seen a lot of great games in Badger history. Where does this one rank, and how much of a classic did we watch?
Well, when I think back to 2000 when they went to the Final Four, maybe that we couldn't believe. I think this one we could believe. I think this team has improved. It started out well. I mean, it was a good team at the start. I think it's improved right along. Two things I think have really helped it improve. A, Frank Kaminsky, which you guys just talked about, and B, I think the defense has at least become respectable. There were some games in the middle of the season and even a couple late in the season where the defense really struggled, and other than maybe the first half of the Oregon game, it didn't play very well. But otherwise, the defense has played pretty well, and I think that's taken this team to another step. So I can believe it. I think this is a good team. I think in the world of college basketball, as it now sits, I think this is a team that can compete with anybody, and they showed it because tonight they beat one of the truly great teams in the country.
Oatsy, was there a point tonight in this game where you thought something was going haywire for the Badgers, and where you thought they might implode? Where you thought, whether it was Bruss cold shooting, Gosser was 0 for until the tip in, and any point in that game where you thought they just didn't have it tonight?
Well, I thought if they fell behind by 10 or so, they would really struggle to come back, simply because Arizona State probably has the best defense. They probably play the best defense in the country. And Wisconsin, even if they were hot, they were going to have trouble stringing possessions together where they scored. So I thought if they fell behind by double digits, they would have real problem. Now, you have to understand about their defense. Arizona's defense went out on those three-point shooters and pretty much left Frank Kaminsky one-on-one for much of the game. And I credit Wisconsin. I credit the players. I credit the coaches for doing what needed to be done, and that was to get the ball into Frank Kaminsky's hands on almost every possession, because they realized that Arizona was going to spend a lot of time and energy taking Bruss and Gosser out of the game in terms of three-point shooting.
Jim, let's go over some of the key plays. Down the stretch, Trey Jackson scores a basket to give the Badgers a lead, and then Arizona comes down. Nigel Hayes, after the ball game, when I was talking to him, took ownership for the fact that he let down defensively and allowed Arizona to get that putback dunk to tie it. But then the ball's back in Trey Jackson's hands. Twitter world will say for better or worse, but boy, that guy's made a lot of clutch shots, and he almost did it again.
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem that the ball ended up in Trey's hands. I think I would have liked to have maybe seen a pick and pop with Kaminsky, just to give Trey more options instead of letting him do it on his own. But it wasn't a horrible shot. He's made that shot. He made that shot tonight. That 17-foot pull-up jumper is, that's his shot in a lot of ways. So not the end of the world. And I thought they came out in overtime and bounced back from that. You might hang your head if you have a chance to win in regulation and don't get it done, but they didn't. They got it done in overtime.
Kaminsky scored most of the big baskets in overtime, Jim, but Ben Bruss opened it with a three-pointer, and that kind of, I thought, maybe relieved some of the pressure, some of the tension.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh Gosser, who really he's really struggled here in Anaheim offensively, had a huge tip in too. They were really scrappy today. And again, I go back to the fact that mid-season we wondered if this team was tough and gritty and were they soft. Well, they've really proven down the stretch that they are tough, they are gritty, they're not soft, and they just kind of found a way to win. They willed their way to victory.
Oatsy, I wanted to ask you about one key play in the overtime. Josh Gosser taking the charge, and right call, wrong call. It was a call, obviously, that Gosser put the officials in position to make because he was in position. What did you think in that sequence?
I don't know what's a block and what's a charge anymore. So whatever the officials call is 100% correct, because there's just no. It's almost like there's no right or wrong on that anymore.
See, from my angle, it looked to me like Johnson got his arm out
Sure.
and pushed off. I mean,
Well,
I'd like to see that again on TV. So, I mean, my initial thought was that's not a terrible call.
There's no question. The dribbler got his arm into Gosser's chest and pushed off. And actually, Jimmy, we had a fairly good angle at that. My point was, you just
Right.
you don't know what they're going to call, and I thought they made the correct call there, but I you know, it wouldn't have surprised me if it had been called the other way. But he clearly, long before he got their bodies ever got together, he had an arm bar out, and if they're going to call arm bars on the defense, they'd have to call arm bars on the offense. And so I thought it was the correct call. I'm a little surprised it was made, to be quite honest with you.
Oates, we'll close it on this question. We followed Bo Ryan early in his career at Platteville, and I remember how special it was when he took the Pioneers to a Final Four, and what a big accomplishment he felt personally it was. How does this mirror that, and how does this exceed that in terms of, for Bo Ryan tonight, being able to celebrate the fact that his team will be playing next week in North Texas?
Well, I think this is huge for Bo Ryan, and he got up on the podium tonight and tried to deflect a lot of this to the players, and rightfully so. It was the players that did this, but I thought this was huge for Bo Ryan. I thought it was huge for his family, and a lot of people around him that have been with him for a long time. Greg Gard, for instance, the assistant coach. These guys have been through a lot with Bo Ryan, and I don't want to diminish anything that was done at Platteville, because he had great teams in the 90s at Platteville, but this is the pinnacle of college basketball right here, I think it's overblown what it means to a coach to get to the Final Four. I think the criticism of Bo for not getting there was way off base, but now it's done. It's off the table, not open for discussion anymore. He's shown that he can take a team. And this is an interesting team. I think it's his best offensive team, and boom, they're in the Final Four. So what does that tell you?
And, I wanted to add, guess what? Bo, of course, in typical Bo fashion, is looking next. Yes, they've gotten to the Final Four. Yes, it's a tremendous achievement, but his first thought is next. What's next? They're going to be playing a national semifinal. This team has looked at it this way: 3 mini tournaments. The first weekend was a mini tournament. They got through that. Now they just got through another mini tournament. Now they have one more mini tournament to get through. They have their eyes on the national championship. They don't want to stop here, and especially it starts with Bo. I mean, the guy is not going to be satisfied until the season's officially over. They still have their eyes on the prize.
Well, we'll see where that leads them. I tell you what, it was interesting in that locker room after the game, guys. The power of social media. I'm not sure that was around in 2000 when they went with Dick Bennett, Oatsy, but the guys were just enamored by the pictures and the videos they were seeing from State Street of the celebration that ensued back in Madison. And folks, they can't wait to get home. A celebration for the players, 4 o'clock Sunday at the Kohl Center. Gates open at 3. We won't be back in time, but I'm sure most of Madison will. And we're off to Dallas, and we look forward to bringing you more of the highlights and reaction from the Final Four down at North Texas. For Tom Oates and Jim Polzin, I'm Rob Hernandez. Thanks for joining us all weekend here in Anaheim. We'll see you in Dallas.